You've likely experienced in your teens, or maybe are right now, a period where you feel like nothing is really expected of you, that everyone says you have time and that it's time to party, hang out with your friends, live life, go to school, go to college. Yet you also have kind of this real urge to actually make something of yourself and to mature, but you're not quite sure how. And whenever you try to approach people about it, they kind of think you're a cringe. They kind of push you off because they're like, dude, just, experience life, right? Like, you don't have to be worrying about these big questions now. And that's exactly what I experienced when I was 15. I remember on Valentine's Day, I woke up and I had this just massive feeling of, man, like I need to do something with my life. And actually, many of my brothers had the same kind of situation there. And what that did to me was, I first started just binge watching like Eben Godsey and Andrew Tate and these guys, and just in like that pursuit of that, or that fulfillment, but then also just like a roadmap to success and something I could follow tangibly. Because me growing up, I didn't have those role models really around me, even though I had privilege to be in a very awesome family. I just didn't really have like the very masculine role models that I think a lot of us guys at that age really yearn for, right? So basically now looking back, being 19, traveling the world right now. I left when I was 18 or so and running my online business, and not trying to look down on anybody because I have so far to go right now. But just based on the experience I've had up to this point, I could confidently say that I've learned three very important lessons when you're in that time period, things that you can tangibly focus on and tangibly improve to get to the next level, and to actually mature yourself in pretty much every aspect. And I'm going to keep it down to three. There are many more, but starting with not focusing on girls, okay? Especially during this time, I think your desire for having girlfriends, or having some kind of partner, girlfriend I should say, hopefully, like that urge just increases, not just because of like the social pressure, because all of your friends and maybe even family have one. It's not just that, but I think, it's also just the testosterone in you that just, is screaming like, hey, I need a partner. And, that's not abnormal by any means. It's completely normal. In fact, back in the medieval ages or whatever, it'd be very common to get married at that, 15 to 17-year-old range, sometimes even earlier as a guy. And perhaps that's a reason why now we have all these guys who are our age, and they feel the big need to have a girlfriend. But I think there's also, that's one reason, right? It's like the natural urge. But then the other natural, I guess, supernatural urge, I guess, or superficial urge, is the social pressure around it, right? And that is something that should not be influencing you, I don't think. When you're in this age bracket, you are likely not prepared to lead a woman of God, really a child of God. And as a man, you have the responsibility of doing that, right? Not until you're married, obviously, but that is another distinction you want to make, right? Until you are married, you as a man do not have responsibility in the sense of as a husband would, for your girl or girlfriend, right? Like, you are not her spiritual leader at that point. Until you are a husband, you don't have husband privileges, right? And that is one thing key to remember, is that having a girlfriend is not the same as getting a wife, right? Having a girlfriend will not give you that same fulfillment as long as you are following, God's, role for marriage, right? Because it can't. There's no real, you haven't become one flesh yet. So that burning urge to just have a girlfriend and all that, I went through that for the past several years, and in fact still kind of face it now. But that is something that you need to kind of set aside, and it can be a motivation, absolutely. I'm not saying don't talk to girls. In fact, I went through that phase. I was walking up to girls in the park, and still do it nowadays, every once in a while, not as frequently, but just to build that confidence, not to actually get with that girl necessarily, but to just practice. And I think it's very healthy as a man to be able to do that. but not making it a focus and not making it drag you down the fact that you don't have a girl, right? No one really cares in the end. Like if you are single, yes, you are not going to experience the same exact things, same exact experiences that a partner, your two partners might have in your age bracket. Maybe, like, for example, I sometimes wish I had someone that I could, share these adventures with and travel and, try new things. But it should not pull you down by any means. It should really give you this sense of urgency and a sense of gratefulness. The fact that you are where you are now only once in your entire life. You're only going to be single, very likely once, unless you get divorced, but you shouldn't get divorced. You should try to uphold your marriage as long as possible. But the idea is that right now, like, this is really the only time that you are truly going to be alone with yourself. And you should kind of look at that as like a massive opportunity. Like, wow, okay, so likely for, 1/4 of your life, which is what you're living right now, likely if you live to 100, but like this is pretty much the only time that you have just with yourself. And if you are listening to other married couples and all that, you hear some of the struggles too that they face, the fact that they're having to live with each other every day, and there are problems that come with that. So the fact that you're alone now, you should be happy with it, and you don't have to be satisfied. Most of us have a yearning to get married. That's exactly me too, but there are different focuses, different seasons in life, and now is not the season to be chasing girls and to be wasting time doing that. You should be spending your time doing more productive things, because it might not be God's will for you to be married at 16. Okay, so take that for what it is. Number 2, say yes to every opportunity that you get that is positive or has like a positive intention, right? When I did this, I think the first opportunity I really picked up was first time I installed Instagram. After a couple months, I ran into this guy who was selling a mentorship, and I bought that mentorship for about $3,000. I'm not saying we got to do that, but stemming from it, a lot of opportunities came, right? A lot. Like, that's where I met my first mentor, Ben, who introduced me to a pyramid scheme. No, I'm not going to say that. It was actually a great system. It's basically a program where I helped enroll people into it and train them on how to use the internet to make money. And that was a very interesting experience. I met incredible people there, right? So many connections I made from that. In fact, I met like the richest person I think I know personally up to this date, Chris Record. So that's how I met him, through that system. And then from there, I started building a personal brand, and then from the personal brands, I basically was able to actually meet up with my current business partner now, who, Tyler Beadle, who I run my current company with. And if it wasn't for taking up every single one of those opportunities, I wouldn't be where I am now. So looking back, you'll experience this, you might even have this now, where you could see all the tiny little dots that connected your journey to where you are now, right? And it's really incredible to look back, and the only explanation is really God's planning, because stuff like this does not really happen by chance, and it's something you have to have faith in. You have to trust God that He will provide the opportunities for you, and all you have to do is really say yes to them and work hard, right? And if you can just really identify those opportunities, put yourself out there. I was 16 years old at a mastermind with multimillionaires, right? I had no idea what I was doing. I looked like an absolute nerd at this time too. But saying yes to the opportunities, just going for it, just doing it, and things will come your way. Truly, it's really how it works. And if it wasn't for saying yes, I would not be where I am now. And some of it sucked. Like, yeah, you're going to see an opportunity and be like, that's not my cup of tea, I don't want to do it. But sometimes just saying yes is the way to go. Like, you never really know what's going to come from that. Like, I didn't want a software engineer, but when I was 15, I started learning coding, right? And I found out it sucked. I hated it. But that gave me some skills already, using the computer more. Gave me the skills that I'm now using today in a lot of ways. So that's number 2. We could go into that a lot more, but surface level. Number 3, becoming emotionally independent. So I did not know was a problem because I didn't really have this issue too much growing up. But what I found is a real big problem is actually for guys our age is a massive dependency emotionally on their mother, actually. And I understand, at least I can think I understand where that comes from, right? The fact that it is she's a feminine, pretty much role model, right? In for your entire life. And she's been with you from ground zero and always supported you, always loved you. But at the same time, there's a point where you do grow up and become a man and do not depend on her for your emotional stability and your overall well-being, right? And for me, I wouldn't say it was as big of an issue since, me and my mom, I said we're relatively close, but I'm not sure exactly why. I think I was pretty independent growing up, but that is a problem that I see a lot of people face. And if that is you, if you do have a very strong emotional connection with your mom, if you can't stay apart for over a month and not break down, then I think that's something I'll examine yourself with, right? Think about, could I get married, right, and still have this connection, right? And I think the answer would be no. I think that would be very, very difficult to lead a family now and even build a family and still have that emotional dependency. I think the key matter of maturity for a man is becoming emotionally independent, whether that be from your mom or even really your spouse. I think you should still be able to be independent. And then, really anybody else. Like, you are your own individual and you have your own choices to make. You take responsibility for the consequences that you generate. And that's just the way it is as a man. And there's a beauty to that, right? It's a beauty that you can create really your own life from ground zero. You can build your own character like a video game. If you want to become more fit, you can do that. If you want to make more money, you can do that. If you want to even get married or not, you can do that as well, right? I think a lot of that's up to God. He's going to put the right person in your path if that is his will, but you get the idea, right? You get to build your own character. If you want to become more spiritually mature, right, which you should, you can do that, right? If you want to become more athletic, you can do that. And there's not really, you come pretty much with a 0 credits stat card, right? As a man, you really have no inherent value unless you're extremely good looking, apart from being made in the image of God. But you are, you pretty much have to build yourself from ground up, which is amazing, right? I think that's an amazing blessing and a super cool thing about being a man. And I would embrace that and pursue that to the end, never give up, trying to become a better man and always looking for ways to improve. But going back to the emotional dependency, that is one of the aspects that needs to be, I believe, revived, needs to be, truly kind of grown out of, right? I don't think you can really pass the stage of maturity until you're able to be disconnected from whether that be your mom or somebody else, right? And I'm not saying that having a loving connection, having a loving relationship and very close relationship with your mom is bad in any way. I think it's beautiful and you should absolutely try to maintain that. But to the point where you cannot really sustain yourself and cannot really be apart, I think that's a very dangerous place to be in. So I would try to build that resilience and become a man, really. When I moved out to Asia, I was 18 and a half or so. And I think at that point, I had just so much independence, that I could do pretty much whatever I wanted at that point. I was very much, an adult and growing my company. But, I didn't really feel much of an issue, moving out and not seeing any of my family for the next, 4 months or so. And, I'm not saying that to brag by any means. I have my own problems, but I think that's something that for a lot of you might be beneficial to try pursuing. So, of course I'm speaking from position of humility as much as I can, right? There's so many things I could talk about that I have problems with, and these are just 3 things that I think are worth definitely pursuing as a man in the ages 15 through 20, whatever that be. Or even if you're 13, this could be beneficial listening to. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.